solar top has proven to be very successful in Nigeria and even other parts. But how do we even overcome such an occurrence? And one of them is, it boils down to one, ensuring that we properly have the right men for the job.
Exactly.
You go on sometimes you even go you go around the town and you see different posters, oh, solar engineer, solar technician. But the government has put a lot of effort, through the Council for the Regulation of Engineering,
Yeah.
to create a scheme called the National Clean Energy Scheme. And that scheme, and current with support from other development partners, created that program majorly to ensure that only trained and certified technicians and professionals are supposed to carry out this sort of installation. And this goes on to just let us know why such an initiative must be strictly adhered to, must be strictly supported, and must ensure that a lot more people know about such a program. Because when you go through the relevant training and even certification exams and have that certification, it's only those that, for example, if you train as a mini grid designer or as a PV installation supervisor or technician, you have the responsibilities to carry out this kind of installations. And when people who may not have the requisite knowledge or technical understanding required to carry out such an installation, this can be the result of those kinds of things. And it goes further to let us know why we must target our workforce, because it is human beings that are going to drive the sector. Whether we talk about trying to advance energy access, Nigeria has a very youthful population and workforce that can be trained, to drive this segment of the sector. And so it is unfortunately happening. Sorry to see that occurrence, but it also just provides a bit more opportunity for us to leverage our youthful workforce and train them in order to support the sector, and go very seriously to those who end up serving as quacks. So pardon my French, but serving as quacks who do not have the relevant training and qualification to carry out this kind of installations.
You know what worries me the most, David, it is the fact that we know for sure that, sometimes you want to rent an apartment, the landlord will tell you that, that you cannot put solar panel on the roof. And it really is defeating the purpose of educating Nigerians to switch to solar, to reduce the cost of their energy. Some people are probably spending so much for their grid connections, and they want to leverage, solar to reduce that cost. And this kind of report will just defeat that entire purpose. And it's going to even get worse, because I'm sure some landlords now will begin to share this video to their tenants to say, "Sure, you see why I said it." Yes, they will share it in the estate groups now. The estate groups and estate WhatsApp to say, "Sure, you see why. You see why we said. Sure, we see why we said." So I hope we can have some standard, or we already have some standard that we must adopt. And as we go further to achieve this Mission 300 before 2030, there needs to be more education around having the best technicians to install your solar. And I'm hoping that this report we're looking at, like I said, is an unconfirmed one, but I'm hoping that the fire is not entirely because of the solar, the rooftop solar they have in that building, and I'm hoping so. But thank you so much for your thought on that. Let's really move to the conversation for today. We are discussing mini grids, and mini grids over the years, has been that particular means of powering remote and off-grid communities, of course, where energy or where electricity has never gotten to. I remember my visit to one community in River State, Ichie, where I went there for over 100 years. They've never had power, and they had a mini grid installed in that community that has been powering them. So I know you've been many of these locations. I know you've been on field over the years, to go and see some of these projects happen. So my first question to you is, have these mini grids been successful, and are they going to be the most successful means of achieving or closing this energy access gap we have?
Thank you so much. If I was to give you a one-word answer, I would say yes, they have been successful. But when we think long term, we think about the fact that in Nigeria today, there are a lot of opportunities that we're beginning to see. And those opportunities are opportunities where even the utilities partner with the DSCOs, to do, to kind of complement their services for effective service delivery to their customers. And so, have mini grids work? Of course, yes. Are they working? Of course, yes. When you look at some locations, it only makes sense that you do a clustered solution such as mini grid in order to serve them, because by virtue of the plans of the utility company serving that franchise area, they may not have plans to expand there for some. In some cases, they have stated, oh, we don't have plans of getting here in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years. But again, some level of productivity are happening within those clusters. And so by virtue of the business models that the utility companies have adopted, they see that, okay, it doesn't make financial sense for us to expand there. Then mini grids are able to provide a solution that is able to serve not just residential consumption, but some level of productive consumption or productive use within those communities. You know that even based on the data we received from the World Bank years ago, they identified that over 10,000 communities in Nigeria today do not have access to electricity. And so mini grids also, and their mini grid, there are sites that have huge potential for mini grid electrification. And so when we look at it, look at those sort of opportunities, of course, you can see that it's not surprised that mini grids are paving the way to electrify people faster, and ensuring that we're able to power not just livelihoods, but also businesses. But again, when you begin to think long term, begin to think of, okay, when we get to answering the question around when the grid extends to this location, what now happens? The truth is, there's still a huge business opportunity there, because you have a situation where those who are providing electricity from the utilities also need to, one, consistently meet the demands of their customers.
Okay.
And so doing that, these assets as well can tend to complement the utilities. And so one of the things that we're beginning to see within the sector, which is highly encouraged, and we see that developers and also projects that are funded by the government are working together with relevant agencies to ensure that even companies at the point of the deployment of these projects are not just deploying any kind of infrastructure, but they are respecting the relevant grid codes, ensuring that the infrastructure that are being deployed are one that is going to stand the test of time, that should even the utilities expand to those communities and there is an opportunity for a grid-tied connection, interconnection between the solution between the renewable energy solution, either a solar mini grid or standard or solar plus battery energy storage solutions, to interconnect with the grid. That opportunity is able to crystallize,
Okay.
and we're able to see such. So I would say that yes.
Yeah. So David, just to ask you again, we know on the sidelines of the Africa Energy Summit that recently happened, the IFC has signed an agreement with 5 mini grid companies in Nigeria to, of course, begin to expand mini grid installation in the country. So I wanted to ask you, Do you see anything new changing with this agreement and some of the projects that will be coming up on this? And what are your thoughts about this announcement and the agreement itself?
Um, Big congratulations to those companies that have signed. And it is my belief that much more companies who are doing very meaningful work would also sign such agreements. And I think it is such an agreement is very clear. It's not just for the purpose of signing agreements. There are specific commitments that each of those companies have agreed to in terms of number of connections that will be achieved, and so it is beautiful because agreements are being signed for kind of right kind of financing to bridge specific number of to bridge education and achieve specific number of connections across the areas that have been pre-identified. So things like this are very welcome development because think about it. If today, earlier in your opening, you mentioned we have 86 million Nigerians that are currently living without access to energy in Nigeria. Imagine how many thousands or millions of people that will be impacted by this singular transaction. Now think about it by having tens of companies, indigenous companies, who are going to be signing similar transactions, having similar opportunities to bridge the energy access gap across different geopolitical zones within the country. I think it is huge. And so I'm sure that would also further bridge that gap and reduce the number of people living without access to energy. And another thing that excites me about such is also the amount of jobs that will be created. The amount of opportunities, economic opportunities that will be created, because it is said that each mini grid creates between 3 to 5 jobs. That's
Okay.
after it is being constructed, because definitely there's going to be a site operator, some other jobs on the maintenance, also some on the security, and other sorts of benefits that come in directly. Now think about the indirect benefits that come across that come with these kinds of projects. So I think it's brilliant. It is encouraged that we see much more of this. Because this would definitely help us accelerate our access to energy to those who are deprived. And also, let us not forget that we have a timeline between now and 2030,
2030. Yes.
and to achieve SDG 7. And when we think about that, and we think about the fact that time is running out, the best time that we should have taken this kind of action was yesterday. But the good thing is that today also gives us an opportunity to keep on accelerating the action that is required for us to
Okay.
bridge this gap that we must bridge. Because
So,
we know,
yeah.
that energy access in itself helps transmogrify lives. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But David, some of the developers, they argue a lot of the time that even mini grid projects are not profitable. So you take huge investments, you put into it, you develop it, but they seem not to be profitable for them in the long run if you don't have any financing from like the IFC and any of the funders. So it worries me to now say that probably many grids are not sustainable, over time if there's no adequate financing. And the kind of financing you need for a mini grid project is quite a lot. So these developers argue that the mini grid project is not profitable for them. I don't know if from your experience you agree with this, and what other solution, or how have you managed this kind of feedback when you hear them over time that mini grids are not profitable? I don't know if that's for a fact.
Thank you so much for this question. I would say that I find this shocking. And why do I find this shocking? I recall a couple months back, I was on a panel session with a representative from government, a financier, and also a renowned mini grid developer. And his testimonial I quote was that they have all their mini grids are very successful and very bankable and profitable. And so I would say that one thing is critical. It's important that when designing such a solution, you think of all the relevant indicators that engender its success. One, siting is very important because you need to also understand that whatever site you identify to deploy such a solution, people must be, one, willing and capable to pay their electricity bills. And again, I would say that it's important you go a step further to say, how does, and to ask yourself the question, how does energy access improve the productivity of the people within this community? And what does expansion look like? Also, how, when I talk about productivity, also, how does it impact on how they earn? Because he that is leveraging your electricity to run their business and is, of course, profitable in their business will definitely not want to owe you. And even in the course of the work that I do, engaging with different, I remember meeting with different business owners whose businesses rely on mini grids. In fact, a long time ago, I remember sharing a video of a woman who was very excited about access to electricity via a mini grid, and it made her completely not use her generator, and so and when I probed further, like, why are you so excited? It means she says, she talked about what it cost her to power her business using a generator because she's into she sells provisions and cold beverages, and what it cost her to run her generator versus having to pay for the mini grid. So I think it's important that while I would not say those persons who have that fault, they have their pain points and they are communicating from their pain points. But I would say that it's important that you consider a lot of things when citing mini grids. Its expansion, the willingness and capacity of people to pay for electricity. How do you also optimize daytime consumption for productive use within the communities? And all of these things are very critical. And how does the electricity you're providing to them help them earn more? And if you're able to think about, then sometimes your job doesn't just end at just the business of electrons. But thinking of other ways to catalyze economic activities within the communities. Because I am a strong believer that if people leverage your electrons for productive use and make money out of the electricity you're providing to them, I'm sure they're likely to ensure that you pay. Sure. And of course, before you embark on such a project, you must have a financial model that proves bankability, that proves, even when you consider the depreciation of your equipment, consider if you're going to change your batteries, for example, take for instance, depending on the kind of battery type you're using, maybe in 5 years or in 10 years, what does that look like? Are you able to meaningfully recoup your investment? And when would you recoup your investment from this project? So you must be able to check all of these before you embark on such an engagement. And if you see that you are not able to really clearly, from the books, see that you have a go ahead to embark on such, I advise you to think otherwise.
All right. Thanks a lot, David. We'll take a short break. And when we come back, the other side of the conversation I want to ask David. There's a place of policy, regulation. How is that going? Where should we need to look at? What are some of the challenges in that area that we must look out for, even as we assess the success of mini grids in Nigeria? We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I know see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
All right, welcome back. So we've been discussing mini grids and we've been assessing the success of mini grids in Nigeria. Mini grids have been a thing over the years, and in many off-grid communities where they lack grid connections, mini grids have been off-grid solutions that have provided power for these communities. There are many of them around, and in Nigeria there are over 100 mini grids as we have it, and more continues to come. And just recently the IFC has signed an agreement with 5 mini grid and energy company in Nigeria to, of course, expand some of these numbers of mini grid in a bid to close the energy access gap as we work towards Mission 300 to provide access to energy for 300 Africans before 2030. My guest is David Arinze, and we've been discussing this. David has an extensive experience working on some of these mini grid projects in the country and is sharing with us his thoughts. So I just come back to you now, David. My next question will really go to the side of policy, and policy in the sense that where is the place of policy and regulation as we try to manage all of this? We are aware that the Nigeria Electricity Act, which was passed in 2023, of course, gives like an overview, of what it should look like policy-wise for anything that concerns energy and electricity itself. But my question now to you is, as the states begin to, have that constitutional power to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity in their different states, what do you think will happen to mini grids? Will there be something that will be leveraged more, or are they going to be forgotten? And my question from this angle is, even before the policy was changed or was updated or adjusted, which we now have the Nigeria Electricity Act of 2023, this state government, they still had the power to, of course, leverage on things like mini grid in off-grid communities to provide power, but we never saw more of it. What is going to change now that they have the full constitutional autonomy to do what they want in their different states, as long as they've put together their market? So my question to you is, where is the place of policy and regulation in all of this as we try to assess the success of mini grid over the years?
For the question, policy, on the other hand, regulation. And when you think about the opportunities that this act gives states the autonomy, you would also look at the fact that there's a lot of opportunities now that states can unlock with this. It means that if you wanted to claim that there were a lot of bottlenecks at the federal level, now you can leverage, you can move things a bit faster, from where you sit at the state. Of course, you need financing for these kinds of projects. And so you see that today, certain states have already taken the bull by the horn to accelerate creating a framework that would help them electrify their states. You see also the fact that opportunities for mini grids still presents itself. In fact, much more pronounced now, because the states can look at their franchise area and say, hey, we can identify community by community and kind of clusterize these communities and see how best we want to meet each of the demands. Also noting the kind of economic activities that are carried out within those communities and how powering them can improve productivity within these communities. A large number of communities that we have in rural communities that we have today are agrarian. And then you see also that some states are beginning to see how they do not just continue business as usual, but see how they can turn some of those products into more finished goods. Some states right now are beginning to consider the opportunities around exporting finished goods as part of a way to generate income for their states. So I would say that there's a huge opportunity here that states are already beginning to leverage.
Are you saying you have confidence?
Policy helps you.
Are you saying you have confidence in the states, even as they make policies, or are you saying you're optimistic?
I would say that I have always worn the cap of optimism and trusting that with the relevant kind of guidance that the states receive, they're able to create, through relevant policies, create a marketplace that will drive the industry. I would even say at a federal level, for example, we're talking about ensuring that we accelerate energy access through renewable energy technology. Today, when you import panels, you're paying duties for them. You import batteries, you're paying duties for them. And you look at other equipment that come in, all of these things impact on the landing cost. And I would say that while we may want to generate revenue, for the country as a result of paying duties, but if we have identified that we want to increase energy access for everybody to be able to afford it, for those developers who need to bring them in, they need some level of rebate. If you ask me, for example, I will tell you that the government needs to see how we can possibly take anything called duties off the importation of this sort of equipment, because this would reduce the landing cost. And also ensure that on one hand, they are not removing duties, but those who want to leverage the duties and would still hike the price of this equipment, but create a special instrument that ensures that those who actually are doing the job get the necessary rebates that they need. And even create a program, that ensures that targets this sort of initiative. Then, when you talk about regulation, I would say that a lot of work is being done, for example, by the Standards Organization of Nigeria, to ensure that we're not just bringing in any kinds of equipment to saturate our market, and ensuring that the equipment that are coming in are equipment that are high standard, that have the relevant quality. NEMSA, on the other hand,
so David, before I let you go, there's a place of emerging technologies coming into play with all of this. We don't have the smart grids. We don't have the AI-driven management technologies, which is, of course, driven by IoT and all of that. There's mesh grids and all of those new technologies coming in. Has this in any way, done any change so far from what you've seen? And what do you think will change maybe in the next couple of years towards 2030? I mean, in 2 minutes or 1 minute, if you can just tell us quickly, because we are wrapping up.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, I was already talking about the work on quality control by
Yes.
organizations like NEMSA and so on, and just talking, and just to say that a lot more can be done in that
Okay.
regard to check the quality of equipment technology that is coming. But also looking at new innovations, like we would like to call it mesh grids, other sorts of smart grids. All of these things are relevant. They are not a nice to have, but they are sorts of technology that we must have, for example, in order to bridge the energy access gap we see. Also, when you think about even things like smart meters, like you mentioned, what does smart metering do? It shows that we naturally are able to demand side management. It comes with a lot of benefits. Also, one of the things that it helps us address is energy theft, which a lot of utility companies complain today and mention that is a huge challenge plaguing our sector, because people do not really understand that this is a commodity that must be paid for. And even when they do, they look at ways to bypass their meters. This sort of smart technologies helps check this kind of occurrences and ensures that we don't have a repetition of them or of this sort of theft, that we're not losing money, and those who are investing in this sector are able to get their return on investment. But a lot more can happen, I would say. Because when we look at the number of connected Nigerians to those that are not connected, we need to really take a lot more action in bridging that gap.
I agree with you. We need to indeed take a lot of action to bridge that gap, especially as we are looking towards 2030 to close the energy access gap in the country. David Arinze, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. Always, I love to talk to you on some of these conversations, because indeed your insights are very valuable, and I did must thank you for making that time to come on the program. We'll follow the conversations, and hopefully when there are any changes, we'll bring you back again for further conversation. Okay, so that's what we have for the show today, and indeed, today's conversation is just putting that spotlight on what mini grids and off-grid communities can achieve from this kind of change, where we look at how we want to close the energy access gap. But before I end, I want to indeed talk again about our earlier news, as we are open to talk to experts within the space who can tell us more about this issue of solar panels, catching the roof, or rooftop solar panels getting fire. It's a big problem, and if we must leverage solar to close this energy access gap or to reduce our cost of energy, we can have this kind of reports, in the space. It's going to just draw us back. But before I go, I leave you with this quote by my favorite person, Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General. And he said, energy is the oxygen of economic growth. Without it, there can be no development, no sustained progress, and no escape from poverty. This kind of quote and this kind of message is why we have created the Energy Outlook, to follow those conversations, to make sure that you are bringing the solution to your table, to create that education that you need to follow some of the things that happen within the space. My name is Wisdom Chap Jumbo, and until I come your way next week, stay on this. Thank you so much.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.